Sick. Everyone, we're hanging with Brendon Small. Duh. Defender of the Riff with Daniel Dekay. Great to have you, man.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's nice to be here. It's nice to be out of the house, to be honest.
Yeah. Get out
really wonderful.
The great outdoors playing guitars.
I know. It's crazy. I've been in a studio making a movie, making a soundtrack, and making a record for the last almost 3 years. And finally, at the end of the whole thing is the release of everything and this big tour with Babymetal, with Jason Richardson, speaking of guitar.
Hell yeah.
He is a monster player.
Monster.
And so is the Babymetal band. They're bonkers. They're so good. So this is the ultimate vacation for me, is being on the road with these great players, with this great crew, and playing this music that has a nostalgia to a bunch of people that are now at this festival. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, this is one of the most exciting things I get to do, is to sit and jam these riffs with you, because I'm of that nostalgia. I'm that age group that in high school, this is the shit I was watching. I came and saw you live in that era.
Yeah.
So it's all coming full circle. It's great to see you doing it again, and I'm stoked to get to know you a bit and jam some guitar stuff.
Absolutely.
I think it's really cool you kind of get your hands dirty in all of it. You're a musician, a producer, an actor, a writer, a director, VO stuff, all the things. What was the first love? Was it like comedy? Was it music?
I grew up, watching movies and loving movies and watching some animated stuff that was really exciting to me, like old Ralph Bakshi cartoons. Like there's one called Fire and Ice. There's one called American Pop. There's Fritz the Cat. A bunch of crazy bonkers, but for adults.
Yeah.
But I was a kid and I shouldn't be watching this stuff. The movie Heavy Metal, the movie.
Of course.
Ivan Reitman's amazing.
Greatest soundtrack of all time,
it's
perhaps.
So cool. Yeah, it's got some of the. It's so crazy to have Sabbath Mob Rules, and then Donald Fagen from Steely Dan, and
working in a coal mine,
and then Devo, and
it's all over the place.
It's all over the place, but it really is eclectic and it's really cool music, and so all that stuff influenced me. Seeing the movie Flash Gordon as a kid, Star Wars, all the crazy stuff influenced me, and then I got into comedy movies. But the big thing I think is the guitar. When I was about 14. Which is what all of Metalocalypse is kind of goes back down to. It's kind of like a little gift to myself when I was 14. If I were to turn on the TV when I was a kid and watch a show like that, I wanted a show just for kind of kids that were excited about guitar and excited about heavy music. And that's where it all kind of started. It started with the guitar, and I figured if I could figure out this guitar, I could probably figure out everything else. Writing, acting, everything else. The guitar is the entry point to everything.
Right.
Seriously, because if you practice, you sit with a metronome, you get good, you get better. If you really are focused, you'll learn how to play it. So same thing happened with learning comedy, with learning writing. There's a bug right here.
Let it really persistent.
Come back here. Come land on my perch. Yeah. But so it all started with guitar, and guitar would come with all of its treacheries as far as performing in front of people, which I wasn't really good at. I was a very nervous kid, but I had to start making peace with that at an early age. So I would enter guitar competitions and fail in a really gigantic way, really fail big. And I failed really big very young, and it was a good lesson for me to learn. And then from that, I would go to music school. And I'd get my bearings, get better at performing in front of people, go to music school. And then while I'm at music school, I'm studying not only music, but I'm studying writing for TV at the same time, because I realized I made a lot of friends at Emerson College, which is right next to Berklee College of Music, which is where I went to school. And so I'm studying music, and then I'm studying writing. And I'm competitive with both. I wanted to have all my musical academia kind of nested and used and all that stuff, and be able to learn about harmony and learn about melody, really, because I like songwriting more than anything, as it turns out.
Yeah.
And the classes that I picked at music school taught me that. I didn't realize I was becoming a composition major, but I just was most interested in these classes, and this would end up being my major, is performance and composition. And then while I'm doing that, I'm very competitive, and I'm writing in classes where I'm supposed to be, writing a comedy thing, and I want to be funnier than all the other writing majors at this other school. So I was really competitive. And then I started doing stand-up because of that, and that's how I got into TV.
I want to jump back to this, the academic side, because you just I got your whole life story in 90 seconds.
Yeah, that's the Cliff Notes version.
I love this jumping in point of, you're not just someone who learns a bunch of Guns N' Roses songs and says, hey, I'm good enough chops to start a band now. Or you're not just someone who watch a bunch of Monty Python. It's like, oh, now I can be a comic. You did take the academic route. You know, you go to Berkeley, you do Emerson at the same time. What was it that drove you to take the academic route? Because as you know, that is the road less traveled, especially with guitarists.
You know, I had no place else to go. I had no idea. I was a terrible student.
Yeah.
I only kind of understood what school was in my last year in high school. I was like, oh, right. I have a second I can get a second chance at all this stuff. I could really learn this stuff. I screwed up, whatever. I have limited all my options to music school. I went to the Berklee College of Music 5-week program when I was 17 years old, and it was so exciting to me to meet like-minded people, living in a small town with like one music friend, to start to meet other people who I could have conversations with on a musical level, on a comedic level, and just like everyone's brain is, you know, whatever OCD, ADD cocktail we all kind of share,
right?
You know, to get us to be meticulous and, you know, granular on the instrument and focus, you know, hyper focus on stuff. It's a personality type that a lot of musicians have, and so when you meet another one, you're like, oh, hey, cool, great, finally somebody like me. So that was what Boston was, and I knew I had to do everything in my power to make sure that I could get into this one school that would maybe have me, because I had blown all my opportunities by being a terrible student. And I was interested in the logic of the academics of music, as far as like chord theory, chord substitute theory, harmony, arranging, all that stuff. That all just kind of made sense to me. And lots of things didn't, and I was just really interested. And you know, if you've got like whatever ADD, OCD thing that you have, you know that the only thing you're interested in is the thing you're interested in. You're not interested in anything outside of it. So I was interested in guitar, I was interested in chords, and I was like, gonna get to the bottom of this. And I wanted to figure out why my favorite song sounded so cool. Why this chord to that chord made sense to me. Why this chord, well, what the hell? I just heard something that made my head go sideways. What is that? I need to analyze that and see if I can incorporate it in my own writing. And so that's what it is. A big, huge bag of tricks. You're amassing all these kind of theorems that you can use at any moment. And hopefully what happens is you get someone throws a gauntlet down and says, write a song. And you go, okay, how much time do I have? Half hour? Okay. What do I have in my backlog of things that work? And how do I personalize them? How do I selfishly make them my own, you know?
Right.
And that's kind of like, that's the academia of music got me to that point. I talked to the guys that I'm on tour with. Some of them study theory, some of them have it and they didn't study it as deep as I did, or some of them studied just as deep. But we all deduce that at the end of the day, it's just a faster way to get something done, you know? That's it. That's what theory does.
Right.
You're all hearing the same exact notes. I can just like group and go, I know what that is,
Right.
And by the time I drive home, because of ear training, because of music school, I can usually go, all right, if the song's simple enough, I can figure it out before I touch a guitar.
Right.
You know, hopefully, right?
Yeah, you can hear exactly. You know exactly what modes and what scales are happening.
Yeah. So
got the toolbox.
Exactly. So what you want is a toolbox. And you want it to never be stuck in a corner. You want to be able to always have some kind of an option. And that's the same thing as writing, too. Writing is knowing what your options are and making a decision. What do we expect? And can you subvert that? Can you do something different? You know, like even the simplicity of a song, which is like, you know, going like this tempo to go 1, 2, like to go halftime. Like, okay, that's a subversion of something. That's something that makes our head go, oh, I'm listening still. I'm interested. So I collect what I think those things are, and I put them into a bucket and I dump it out when I need it, you know, and I go, where's that thing I was looking for? And that's how writing works.
That's awesome.
I think.
Obviously, it's like, it is the academic route you took, but were your parents musical at all, or were they like, oh fuck, our son wants to be a musician / comic? Great.
They didn't know what a musician was, and they don't play music. My mother has an accordion in the closet somewhere, and she never really played anything too crazy for me on that. She just like knew a couple chords. But that was it. We had a piano in the house though growing up. I think that was an important thing. My mom would always give me artistic gifts, so like it was either paints or a keyboard or something, you know. So whatever it was that I needed to do to calm my mind would be available, you know. Whatever the therapy of art was around my house. And my parents had pretty good taste in music. From like Queen to Led Zeppelin, you know, to a couple of, like one jazz album, but there was like, between that was like enough for me to get started. And then they had good taste in movies too, so they had good comedy taste. Albert Brooks was someone that was played around my house all the time, and to me, he's a comedy legend. old Woody Allen movies and things like that. So the Marx Brothers, stuff like that was really exciting to me because it was musicianship and comedy at the same time with the Marx Brothers. So Monty Python, that stuff, old SNL, stuff like that. So I was interested in all that stuff, and that was what my world was. It was music and comedy and music and comedy and music and comedy all the time. And I just went into my little room and hit away with a metronome, and that's
awesome.
Then tried to learn Yngwie licks, and
Yeah, like did you latch on to your parents' musical influences at first? Like, was Jimmy Page and Brian May kind of the guys with the posters you had on the wall, or did you find your own dudes?
I found my own dudes because I had a really important friend down the street. Because I think this is something I talk about this with a lot of people, is that if we didn't have some kind of entry point into the world of heavy metal, maybe you had an older brother, maybe you had a friend down the street, maybe you had a cool parent. But for me, it was a friend that lived down the street that I met at the bus stop when I transferred to schools when I was in 7th grade. And that guy, in one day, showed me my first guitar chords. And he showed me who Metallica was, who Slayer was, who King Diamond was, who Exodus was, who Anthrax was, who SOD was. And just like cool, like a deep love for metal. And somebody showed him all that stuff too. So he was passing it along to me. And he showed me who Joe Satriani was, and that was a big eye-opener. Van Halen, like I knew who Van Halen was, but the cool stuff with Van Halen, and that was a really big deal. But Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Van Halen, Yngwie, all that stuff was really, really important to me. And I couldn't believe it. And my friend also showed me the guitar was possible, because up until that point, I couldn't play. I mowed lawns and bought a crappy guitar from Toys R Us with a speaker built in and everything.
The toy guitar,
Yeah, but it actually played, and it had like a Bigsby-style bridge with a whammy bar, and so I could just make noise with it, but that was about it until I met my friend. My friend showed me, I'll show you, he showed me so like a... He just showed me like a blues shuffle. So he just showed me like that, and he also showed me...
You turned off your pitch shifter?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
I was like,
that's
what the
right.
fuck
Yeah,
happened?
I can put it back down. Yeah, because I was going back to standard. We'll talk about that in a second. But I have a pitch shifter on my guitar. So he showed me songs I hadn't even heard Iron Man yet. But he showed me that one power that you can move it one chord anywhere, parallel on a set of strings. And I thought, okay, I didn't know that was available in music. He's like, yeah, it's called a power chord. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. Yeah, this guy Pete Townsend invented it. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, it's part of a bar chord, but it's just the first 2 notes. And I was like, what? And then I was like, okay, now I'm up and running. So I could tune my guitar, get him to tune it, and I could take it home and slide these power chords around. And I was like, okay. Oh, now I'm understanding some stuff. Okay, now I'm getting excited and I'm getting creative. So anytime I'd learn a chord, I'd try to write a little piece of music with it. It's because I would just naturally want to write some kind of ditty or some kind of a thing. And that's what was, I wanted to be creative on the instrument, not just play it, but I also really wanted to play it too. Yeah.
In the time that you were like learning power chords, and you said you took that first Berklee course really young, at 17.
Like 17, yeah.
Were you putting together bands in this time? Were you trying to do that kind of
stuff?
Yeah,
I had done like, I didn't really have I would jam. I didn't really have a band. I would put projects together. It's kind of crazy because it's almost kind of like telegraph the future of my career.
You're a kid. Yeah, you're doing the thing.
But I'd be like, I need a drummer for this thing. They said they'd let me do something at school, so like I put a band together to play in the courtyard of the high school at some point. So I'm like, I need a drummer. There's only one. I need a bass player. There's only one. Let's do this, and let's sort out a bunch of songs that we can play for this amount of time. Who can sing, who can't. And so I'd kind of like put something together every once in a while. But I didn't really have like my own band, except for my buddy, that same buddy. We would sit and write songs and record them. And this was an important part too, is we'd sit there with so long ago, we didn't have 4 tracks or anything like that. We had a 2 tape deck with an auto reverse thing that he learned that if you could rig this thing where you had put a microphone in it, you could just keep on overdubbing onto the next tape. So you take these 2 tapes, you'd record the song that's playing, and you'd record a track onto this tape, and you can record that plus a track onto it on the next tape. And so it keeps degrading, but you can keep adding tracks forever. So stacking tracks was a really important thing to me, and we started understanding about harmonizing guitars through that, through like what Iron Maiden would be doing, through what Brian May would be doing, all that stuff through just experimenting with recording. And then the other thing about recording is it shows you how good, or in our case, bad we were playing, and we're like, that's no good. We got to correct that stuff. Some of this is bad playing. Make us sing, make us write songs, short and sweet, funny songs, things like that. So it was like a project, and there were like 2 kids, like 14 to 16, that era, where we didn't have driver's license, we didn't have a social life, but our whole life was this creative friendship on top of a regular friendship, but we would create together, and that was a really important thing. And so all my friendships would end up being somewhat creative. Let's do something. Let's figure something out. And that's how I would just go about stuff.
It's awesome that it's almost this like aspiration of perfectionism, almost, that like drives you to like, you know, you want to be better than everyone at guitar. You want to be the best writer. You want to be the best comic. You pursue it all academically.
Yeah.
I like that it's like a desire to be the best is really, it seems like that was an underlying theme here.
I just wanted, you know what it is, and what it still is that I want to see if I can satisfy myself somewhere. I don't know if I want to be the best. I just want to be better than I am.
Okay,
you know?
I like that.
And because what I am is a perfectionist who is a major slob, and that's a rough thing. Those are like 2 opposing forces.
Man of 2 minds.
Yeah, no, but it is like you want to be good, but you don't have. You want to be good. You want to be good fast. So, do you have the patience to get good? And that's what guitar is. It's also just like, do you have the patience? Because you have to slow everything down to bullet time, like in the Matrix, you know, and figure out which direction your pick is going. Is it an upstroke?
Right.
Or is it downstroke? Somewhere in this crazy tangle of notes, you have to figure out where you're landing all the time. And that's perfectionism. And if you rush that stuff, you're a slob like I am.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got it if you have patience, and sometimes you don't if you don't have patience.
I love it.
Yeah.
There's this concept that I think is almost widely applicable to almost everyone in this world except for you, and it's that most comedians want to be rock stars and musicians, and they think they can do it, and all musicians think they're fucking comedians.
Yes.
You're the guy who can do both. You've kind of
I've kind of like straddled that line, and I think it's more interesting because if I'm hanging out with a bunch of guitar players, I'm the funny guy in the room, and if I'm hanging out with a bunch of comedians, I'm the best musician in the room.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm not really hanging out with that group, the group that I'm supposed to be, you know, a part of, as long as I'm kind of like hanging out with the other group, they think I'm more interesting.
That's awesome.
But truthfully, it's like having one job with a bunch of different parts. It's like a lazy Susan of things. So if you're directing or writing, the guitar muscles are atrophying. If you're playing guitar, my directing and writing or acting muscles are atrophying. So you got to constantly keep it in some kind of rotation where you're always practicing everything at the same time. And that's what these last 2.5 years has been. Writing, directing, acting, music writing, music arranging, all that stuff. So it's like I said, if I keep myself busy enough, I can kind of keep up with some stuff.
Is home movies like the first time you really get the opportunity on a larger scale to do both the music and the creating and the comedy element of it all in one shot?
Yeah. I mean,
that's it.
Well, I was just.
Is that the first? Like, was that the first big thing you did?
Yeah. Because I was doing stand-up. I had just started, and I'd only been doing it for about a year or so. And I was doing it with really funny people like Eugene Merman, and who was my roommate at the time. You know him from Bob's Burgers and stuff. But he's a really great comedian, and he was my roommate, and we had a comedy night that we would do in Boston every single Friday. And so we would get this stage to ourselves, and we could really just learn how to be funny, learn what's funny about ourselves. There's a lot of bombing and a lot of failing along the way, but I figured out a couple things that I was kind of good at, and what I was better at was finding a character and leaning into it, and that was kind of something I would be better at doing. And then one night, the team of people that were going to see some comedians came and saw them, and I knew that they were coming, and they were the guys who did the show Dr. Katz, which was an old show on Comedy Central in America, and it was a therapist who would interview comedians, and it'd give them an opportunity to kind of do their jokes, and then they'd animate all that stuff. But we thought it was great. We thought it was really funny, and it was local. So we thought if we could get those people to our show, maybe we could get a chance at doing something with them. And it was an evening of good fortune because I was very funny. It's really dicey in those days, you know. You don't know what you're going to get. So I was really funny that night. The crowd was really good. And this table was laughing louder than anybody else. And eventually they looked me up and they said, come do something with us. And that was a guy named Lauren Bouchard. And the opportunity was what would end up being home movies. And I was 23 at the time, so I was just a kid. And we did the pilot then. And then we were kind of off to the races, kind of. And then we got canceled. And then Adult Swim happened. And then we were brought back into the fold.
And of course.
So we you know, there's failure around every part of the story is tons and tons of failure, just so we can get these little cool things happening.
But it's like failure and triumph. I mean, like one door closes, another opens.
Yeah,
Lauren went and did Bob's, right?
Lauren would go and do Bob's.
Yeah, which is massive.
Exactly. But underneath there's like bombing. There's tumult and long walks home and what am I doing and how am I blowing this and all that stuff. So, but that's a really important thing to remember, I think. On the road to any kind of success, there are so many more failures than the successes. It's just that the world doesn't see the failures.
Right.
We do.
Right.
But the world doesn't, and they only see success. And so it's kind of an illusion where the truth is that failure around every corner. Every day, I now have a credo, wake up and fail and repeat, and that's how you do it, and that's how you get somewhere, And just don't let failures get you down. And don't let successes get you too high either. Hang out in the middle somewhere, and you may be okay.
Was there a lot of failure and trial and error associated with the creation of Metalocalypse and Dethklok? Because from an outsider perspective, it seems like in that early era, right from when it came onto Adult Swim, everyone my age who was into metal or not was watching it. Yeah. It seemed like it didn't have like a trial period. Was it difficult behind the scenes?
Home movies taught me that your show can be taken away from you at any time. This is show business. It's not your... There's nothing nice about it. Like any day can be your last, you know? So I thought, I want to make sure I can do something that no one else is going to do, that only I can do, I mean, other people could do it if they wanted to, but I knew that other comedy writers can't do this because they can't play music. Or maybe they can, but I don't know anybody that can do this. So I thought, this is a really good opportunity. Let's really nail, like I said, the character stuff was really important to me. The story stuff was really important. Getting the music right was really important. And getting the look of it was really important, and the tone of it. So it was kind of lightning in a bottle. We did get lucky in some ways, but the creativity was definitely there between myself and Tommy Blacha, who was really important in the very important early days of putting the show together. So all that stuff was definitely there. So by the time it came out, we were hoping what did happen would happen,
Yeah.
Because, it's, I thought this is an audience that isn't being spoken to. Because what else is there? Headbangers Ball, sporadically throughout my lifetime. And then, what else? What else?
Especially on an extreme level. Anytime there was like a metal comedy bit or something in the hard rock world, it's kind of like taking the piss of what we like. And like, you created a death metal band that was bigger than the Beatles. It was totally made sense to everyone who's into that kind of thing. Yeah,
that was the idea. Is also because we weren't interested in doing the story of the metal or the band on the way out, because Spinal Tap nailed it. Right? And why would we do that when Spinal Tap nailed it so hard? And then I think Tenacious D kind of has that too, or the band that can't achieve liftoff. Flight of the Conchord, the band that can't achieve.
Same thing,
But it's hilarious and great, but also why do we need to be there doing that? We don't. We need to be doing something completely different, which is why we're like, what if this is what if the whole world, what if the 7th largest economy was an extreme metal band? So that's where we're like, okay, no one's doing that. And then there were a lot of different other things that kind of helped formulate what it is. But yeah, the idea is to make fun of celebrityism, really, and then it happens to be about something cool that we think is cool, which is heavy metal. And then we make fun of creative relationships, and it happens to translate to a lot of people in the heavy metal world, but it really is kind of like being in the writer's room and those creative relationships, making a show together. Making the show echoes what Dethklok is going through almost all the time.
Yeah.
And we just kind of cover our tracks and keep moving forward, but it's about creative relationships, the squeaky wheel, who's the murder face this week, things like that. So it really is like, there's an ideology behind it that supports all this stuff, but it happens to be about metal, but it's about celebrityism, really.
I love that it's like kind of, making fun of celebrityism, but like at the same time, the show is loaded with celebrity cameos.
Yeah.
Like literally you've had every musician, actor, voice actor, everyone who's famous has done the show.
But more
Luke
than
fucking Skywalker.
Yeah, well, Luke Skywalker, Malcolm
McDowell,
Werner Herzog, lots of really cool people from the comedy world too, like Lorraine Newman. She's an OG SNLer, but what we really want to do is make sure and carve out an area where we could have people from the heavy metal community come and be part of the joke.
Yeah.
Be funny. James Hetfield, Kirk Hammett, King Diamond, Corpse Grinder.
Slash, Exodus,
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, Billy Gibbons, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, like all my heroes. Yeah, all the guys
dudes.
I know. So all those guys that I was excited about, and I knew that from a bird's eye view. I'm like, I see myself as a 14-year-old looking, my arms folded, going, this sucks. I see that in the back of my head everywhere, and I'm like, okay, I got to make sure and please that kid. If I can do that, maybe I'll have something. So that's what it is. It's a selfish endeavor to please the 14-year-old version of myself who doesn't exist anymore. And that's what the whole thing, and it's also a little bit of a love letter to the guitar, because I really like guitar, and I was falling back in love with my guitar during the inception of this show too. I was going out and seeing shows. I was going and seeing like seeing like Cannibal Corpse and Nile and all these really cool extreme metal bands, and I was seeing like all the European. I was seeing Dimmu, and I was seeing all this like all the Scandinavian metal and all the European and all this stuff. So I was seeing all that stuff, and I was excited. I was really excited, and I still am when I see new bands and the old bands and all that stuff. It's really exciting for me to see people really playing their instruments.
Yeah.
I like people who are good at their jobs, and heavy metal has like this abundance of just just perfectionism inside of heavy metal. It's crazy. I mean, I play with Gene Hoglan. He's a perfectionist.
Yeah.
He does not fuck around. He is there to play, and he's here to play it right.
Yeah.
Never, ever waver. It's
the
bonkers.
atomic clock, man.
I know. So all that stuff. So I'm excited by all that stuff, and I was falling back in love with my guitar, and I was going and seeing Satriani and Vai and all these new guitar players and Petrucci and all that stuff, and I was going and seeing all that stuff, and then I was like, oh my God, it's time to make this show. So let's see what we can do with our problem-solving skills, with our senses of humor and our taste, and then let's see if I can write some music that hopefully can stand alone. That's the idea. Can you make it stand alone? Can you make the TV show stand alone? Can you put them all together and make something even more powerful? And now I think we're at a place where we've just finished a movie, just finished a new Dethklok record and a soundtrack record with an orchestra and everything. But this tour is also a thing that stands alone, where you don't have to know any of that stuff just to watch and be entertained by what we do. So I think we're at a place where this is its own thing. It stands by itself too.
That's the thing that blew my mind, is that how well it stands on its own. The first time I saw you, you were literally like basically direct support to Iron Maiden on a festival.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
that's
this,
a crazy
this
thing,
band that could be perceived as a TV show band is playing to 40,000 people on a headline stage.
That's what I'm thinking. Again, the 14-year-old with his arms folded is going like, yeah, let's see your stupid cartoon band play. That's what I'm thinking, and I'm like, okay. Let's get Gene Hoglan, and let's get all these other great players. Like at that time, Mike Keneally and Brian Beller. Now it's Neely Brosh and Pete Griffin. But yeah, that was the idea. How can we make this? How can we make the best show we can possibly make, and the most entertaining show that we can possibly do?
And you nailed it. It's a total ode to the guitar. All the stings, all the little guitar sounds.
A lot of little bells and whistles.
Love
it.
Little
it's
fun
like
things, it's made for guitar players. We hear that shit. I'm so stoked you're in the second coming here.
Yeah.
Dude, I was one of those people harassing the networks back for Metalocalypse now. Like,
well, it took a while.
Loyal, man. Loyal
I
fans.
know. You know what though? That's what I think is an important thing. Is that first of all, thank you for being one of the harassers, because that's why we're back.
Straight up.
Seriously, that's why we're back.
And it's such a Metalocalypse thing to do, to be like, hey, we need you fans to annoy the fuck out of these networks and tell them to give us money.
I didn't tell anybody to do that. Everyone did that on their own.
But that's us, right? That's what your fans would do.
They played the part of the fans on the show. No, seriously, it's crazy. But yeah, it's great to be here, and it's like I said, this is like my ultimate vacation. So it's so much fun sharing a stage with all these people at this festival, and with the band that I play with and the crew that I work with, and it's really fun. It's very, very optimistic and lucky, and morale is high, and it's really nice.
We like burned all our time having a great convo. I wanted to talk to you about rig and stuff.
I can do it if you want.
It's a quad Cortex. We know it kicks ass.
So I'll tell you this very quickly. I use a quad Cortex now, and I run it into the power section of my amp, which is a Marshall, a Satriani Marshall.
Nice.
And it's got a really nice crisp sound. And I'm tuned in standard, and it pitches me down a major third, or 6 semitones, I think, and or maybe 4, I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm down to C standard, but I'm playing in C or E standard. And my life is better because of it, and I love it, and I record it that way. And this thing is a game changer, this Quad Cortex. I used it on a one-off a year ago. I hadn't talked to anyone that had, and it served me really well, and I'm going to keep using it.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
This is like your OG Death album guitar, right?
Yeah, this is my Death Album 1 guitar. I've like switched to pickups a little bit, but these are just like PAF classic, Gibson pickups, and I put a black pickguard on, and I refretted it, and that's it,
That's rad.
And it's like a big plank of wood, and that's it, yeah.
It's
and
awesome.
It's just like, it's Squiscar's guitar,
Yeah, it's so sick.
Yeah, and if you'll notice, my fingers are the exact same like shape as Squiscar's. My big, huge like finger, this one looks like a frog's finger. If you watch the cartoon, they modeled it after my hand, so when you see me play, it looks exactly like Squiscar's.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah.
I want to finish off, I want to ask, it is a guitar show after all. What is the lick that you know how to play that no one would expect you to know?
I don't know, I can do like... I don't know. I don't even know if I can play that. Let me think. How about, there's Reeling in the Years. There's like
Fuck yeah!
But I think everyone would expect me to play that too because I love Brian May.
You love Brian May.
I mean, seriously, my tastes go all over the map. So from like Steely Dan to Cannibal Corpse, I don't know. I don't know what it would be unexpected from me. So I'm not sure.
That's perhaps the best answer you could give, though. Expect the unexpected.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a few little bits and pieces for you to like check out, but I don't know. Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Dude, Brendon, I'm stoked. My 15-year-old self is jumping up and doing somersaults
You've
in the
got
air
one
right
too,
now.
yeah. See?
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
This is huge for me. I appreciate you hanging and being so cool.
Absolutely.
Have a wicked show today. I will be right there in the front.
Awesome, man.
Cheers, brother.
Thanks for having me.